Hello. So for me, it's been longer than it has been for you, but I didn't film a video yesterday because I was asleep. Basically, since I've gotten home, I've mostly been asleep. So I got home Sunday morning. I pretty much slept all day, all night, slept all day Monday, and then didn't sleep much last night. And so I didn't film a video yesterday, which is fine because I thought what I wanted to do today was play a little game of curious cards. So this is actually a deck that Obi and I got to do together on our like little weekly meetings sometimes. These cards, in my opinion, are actually like more, they're less like for partners and more for like, in my opinion, connecting with just anyone. So I thought it would be fun for me to go through and like do a few of these and just kind of see how it goes. I don't know. I think what I'm gonna do is just pick 10 and then, you know, let them be a surprise. Are we ready? Also, I'm having another coffee. This is my second coffee today. It's still a little too hot to drink, but I needed it, right? Like, I am trying so hard not to sleep. Like, everything in my body wants me to be asleep right now. It is pushing for me to feel asleep. It's like 10 p.m. to my body. It would love to be in bed right now, but we're fighting it because we got to get back to normal eventually. This was much harder on me actually, like moving to back home, and maybe because it was hard on me going for sure, but I think I was like much more in denial about that because I didn't want that to be true. I wanted to feel differently than I felt. So I was like pushing it. Whereas on the way back, I like blocked off 2 days, one day to rest and one day to get things done. Today's the get things done day. So yeah, I think my body was just like, okay, you have permission to do whatever you want to do, which is only sleep. Okay, so these are what the cards look like. I picked 10 randomly and we're just gonna check them out one by one. It says, have you ever experienced discrimination? How did you feel in that moment? You know, I think like the closest thing I can feel like is like doctor's offices and having doctors like ignore my actual health concerns because they are like so obsessed with my body that they can't like talk to me about actual issues, you know? I think that's like the closest thing to really feeling like discriminated against. Okay, next question. Gentrification is real. How has it affected you or how have you played a part in it? If you aren't familiar with gentrification, I'll just like kind of quickly say it's like people moving into lower income neighborhoods for like the low cost of housing and then like fixing up houses because they actually have more money, like more resources. And so they're moving in, like fixing up the houses, which then like raises the living cost of the people who have lived there for generations, and then oftentimes price out the people who have always lived there. And oftentimes these are like the hip up and coming neighborhoods that like we all love when we want to move to. It's oftentimes at the expense of people who have lived there for generations. So, so how has it affected me or how have I played a part in it? You know, I think Asheville's heavily gentrified. In terms of how have I played a part in it, I think I'm always the gentrifier and not ever really the gentrified. Not that I come from money or have money, but just like whiteness in general, you know? And like, I think even like being someone who didn't have a lot of money with a white body, moving into neighborhoods where it's mostly like Black and brown people who've been there for generations, it's kind of like doing the same thing anyway, even if you aren't like going in with a ton of money, revamping all the houses, you're still kind of like playing a part in it. So I think that that's been more my role in it. I haven't really been like harmed by it, probably, personally. This one is, what is guaranteed to bring you happiness? Traveling alone, going to a movie alone, not being alone, But also, you know, I think I am an extrovert as much as I like to spend time alone. I think, you know, energy, like having a really good conversation, having a really stimulating conversation, that brings me a lot of energy. Playing tennis is guaranteed to make me happy. Going to a yoga class in person usually will make me happy. Yeah. Meditation. I don't know if that makes me like happy, but it makes me more like stable. Like not as many ups and downs. All right, next question is blue. Blank always makes me laugh because, what always makes me laugh? Oh, well, I'm getting a text right now from Tyler. He always makes me laugh, because he makes fun of me in the most loving way. And I think that's like the funniest thing. He's just known me for so long, and it comes from like such a place of love, but it just kills me every time. Like laugh until it like hurts. He's also just like really quick. Him and Eric both are just like very quick-witted people. So Tyler and Eric always make me laugh. This next one says, how does singing make you feel? Inadequate. I cannot sing. I used to like try when I was younger, you know, I really wanted to be good at singing, but nope, that is not my gifting. Is zero waste or sustainable consumption ableist? Why or why not? You know, I don't think we can put, this is the next one, I don't think we can put anything in like a black or white category like that, like saying being zero waste is ableist. I do think that like it's an ableist thought that like everybody should give up straws no matter what, but I don't really think anyone's saying that. Like, I don't think anyone's saying like, even if you need straws to survive, to like eat or drink, like then you're still bad if you use them. I think that that's like more interpreting it through a lens of black and white. And I don't think that's the case. Now, I also think that like this zero waste and sustainable movement is amazing, and I do as much as I can. I play my absolute part. My neighbor is going in and out of the garage a bunch. I'm just gonna wait until they inevitably close it again. But I think that like I'm all for those movements. So I'm all for those movements, and I definitely play my part. I definitely try to improve upon how little I waste all the time. And it's definitely something that I really value. However, I think oftentimes we're focusing on the individual impact when we really need to be talking about like the corporate impact of the environment, which is way more pressing and way more of widespread and like much more, it's affecting the world in a much greater way than like whether or not you and I are using paper straws. At the same time, like I aim to do everything that I can, you know, personally, but I don't want to do that in favor, like in lieu of actually working toward the corporate change that needs to happen, if that makes sense. Now, I don't know if that like answers the ableist piece, but I do think that like we get into these really nuanced conversations around things that turn people who are like all actually share a common goal against each other, because we are looking for kind of a righteous right, like a sense of like I am right. So I think like often if let's say there is someone who's saying, I've never met them, I've never seen this, but let's say there is someone who's saying if you need a straw, right, to eat or drink because of a disability or an experience that you're having, that you're bad still. I've never seen anyone say that. I don't think that's what people are saying. I do understand that the desire to outlaw plastic straws, and I can see how that would like negatively impact real individuals. And I don't think that anyone is attempting to do that. You know what I mean? But I think at the same time, if they were, what they're trying to do is say like, I know the best way. I know what's right. I know what the good thing to do is. And then the people who are saying, hey, that's ableist, and like really taking that stance and saying like any fight against this is ableist, which I haven't seen anyone say that either. I think it's more like the fear of them outlawing them completely. that we're taking these, like, we're putting things into these like really definitive stances when it's actually much more gray and messy than that. Like, it can be both, right? It can be like, plastic straws are not serving our environment, and let's find a solution for this problem, right? Like that those can exist at the same time. And it doesn't make sense to me like why two people who agree that climate change is real, who are working toward saving the planet, would argue with one another instead of arguing with the people who are actually doing the harm, right? Instead of like focusing on these corporations and these lawmakers who are actually doing the harm. I think that that's my thoughts on that. Next question. Who writes history? What influence does a historian have on society in the future? Often white men, and often it's through their lens of being in power and maintaining power and painting their religious views as the correct way or as morally fine. That's my opinion. How does one school's environment affect their education? I think it's significantly, right? Like, if you have a school that doesn't have a lot of the supplies that you need, if you're living in, the school environment is chaotic, it's going to be hard. I think even for me, an experience I had back in 8th grade, I was in school, I was being like heavily bullied. It was really hard. My teacher hated me. My friends turned against me. I had my stepdad at home was like addicted to crack cocaine, was like super aggressive, really intense, and all of that was happening. And then I got, I moved to Florida to live with my grandparents, got moved to a different school, immediately made like friends. I made great grades. I got like leadership awards. I made like straight A's. And then when I went back to my old school, I got put into a new classroom and I maintained the good grades. And it was like the environment was 100% impacting my ability to perform at the level I was capable of, because there was like so much other stress in my life that was just like making that hard. This one says, what's one thing you would change about the way you were raised? I think the main thing would just be like having stable parents who just had like jobs and weren't addicted to things and could like be there for me to like do my homework with me, set like healthy parameters, who like went to my events, who like taught me how to be a person. That would have been nice. What's missing from the current standardized academic curriculum? I think racial history. All right, next question. How do you find fulfillment? I think fulfillment only comes through the present moment and through really like being in the present moment. I think a lot of times I was seeking fulfillment, right? It was like looking for like, what's the next thing that's going to make me feel fulfilled? What element of my career is going to be the ultimate fulfilling thing that I can do? And then I realized like the more I accomplished those things, the less fulfilled I felt. And like, because I'm always looking to what's next, and that actually like takes me out of fulfillment. So I really think for me, like fulfillment is found in the present moment and being grateful for what is here and now. Next question. Imagine yourself in the future. What will your greatest life accomplishment be? Well, I hope I write a book one day that is memorable and helps people to have a gentler, more loving relationship to themselves. Next question is, what makes you unique? Yeah, I take the whole self-love thing extremely seriously. And I think, unfortunately, that is rare. I wish it was less rare, How do you love? I like that question. I love through seeing people, through really getting to know them, understanding them, like in the sense of like, I know who you are. I will see you as you tell me to see you. I will believe you when you tell me who you are. And I'm going to remember things about you, especially people that I love the most. Like one of my best friends, she like in high school, like celebrated Pi Day with her. She had a teacher who did Pi Day every year. So she celebrated Pi Day all through college. And I try to text her every Pi Day and just say like happy Pi Day, because like I know her and I think about her every time that happens. Or with like Obes, I remember like, oh, if he doesn't have afternoon coffee, he's gonna get a migraine. Like, I'm gonna check and see if he's had afternoon coffee, you know? And just like listening to what people tell me about themselves, believing them, and then pointing them back to that later. So like if someone says one day, like, it really fulfills me if I go have coffee and journal, and then they're talking to me, 3 years later, and they're like, I'm having a really hard time right now, I just can't find like a sense of like fulfillment. And I'll be like, actually, when's the last time you went to go have coffee and journal? Like, I will like remember that about you and point you back to yourself. Do you identify with people who live with mental health conditions, and why? Yes-ish, yes. I think like obviously I have anxiety. I'm pretty sure I have CPTSD. I'm not diagnosed with that, but yeah, I would say like I in some ways identify with it because it obviously like impacts my life. Like we talked, like you guys saw like the spa day situation, like that became like a really like, it was a big trauma trigger for me, and like it was just how the day was gonna go, and I had to like work with that. And I think that like trying to pretend like that's not what's happening, it isn't super validating to myself. But at the same time, I don't want to limit what I do in my life because of that, right? Like, I don't want to never get a facial again just because like one time this was hard for me. I don't want to like avoid things that make me uncomfortable just because they have the potential to make me uncomfortable, if that makes sense. I actually like want to expand my comfort zone as much as possible so that these things impact me less and less over time. That's easier said than done, right? I'm not always good at that. And that is definitely, in my opinion, has to be self-driven. I don't think that's something that someone else can put on you. I think sometimes when you struggle with anxiety or you struggle with like CPTSD or trauma, that people in your life will want to rush that process for you. And that's not something that I'm okay with. I won't let people do that. But I do want to do that for myself. You know what I mean? So I identify with it, but I don't want it to like identify me, if that makes sense. Like, I don't want it to be my identity, but I do have to acknowledge it because it's part of my life. Is there anything too serious to be joked about? Yeah. I don't like jokes. What I mean by that is like, I don't do well with most comedians. Like, I'm just like I don't have just like I think everything is funny kind of personality anymore. Like, I definitely don't like jokes about people. I really don't like jokes about the way people look. I don't like making fun of people. I don't mess with that. I don't think it's funny. And then I think that there's ways to make jokes about things that are serious but still do it well. And I think like Louis C.K. used to do a good job at that, like rest in peace. Like I think that all takes a different tone after his life kind of came out to surface. But like I think he did used to do a really good job of like making jokes about really serious things, but like doing it in the right way to where he's not being inappropriate with those jokes or like not being offensive. And I think that's the line you have to ride. Personally, I don't want to ride that line. Like, that's not like something that I find interesting or necessary. I'm not the kind of person who like needs to make a joke all the time anymore. Like, I think I used to be more like that, but like now I just think sometimes things are serious and that's okay. And we don't always have to lighten the mood. When was the last time you cried? What was it about? Probably yesterday. I guess it was like, I did an Instagram live before I left Bali and I read from the book, and I actually read a piece that included my brothers in it, and my brothers happened to be in the live, and that made me really emotional. So yeah, probably that. I feel like I've cried in the last few days because we've just been so tired. And like, it's kind of like overwhelming to go from being alone to like being with your person. And like, that's like an emotional, exciting thing. But I don't know if I've cried. I think I've been so sleepy. Name one thing that makes you nervous or uncomfortable and explain why. I want to like pick something that you don't already know. Let's see. So like, I think like networking with people, I think this is something that like I really struggle to do. There's people who like I'm friends with who do this so well, and I'm just so bad at it. I think it's because I just want genuine relationships. I don't want to feel used, and so I don't want anyone in my life to feel used by me, if that makes sense. But at the same time, like some relationships can just be like that. Like sometimes you are professional colleagues who like support each other in your professional work, and like that should probably be normal. I also like, I think more accurately even other outside of friendship is like, I'm very self-reliant. I very much like have always just taken care of myself. And so I think like asking someone for help feels weak to me, or it's like hard for me. And also like, I don't ever want anyone to feel used, because I know how bad it feels to feel used. And I don't want to do that to anybody. But at the same time, sometimes you just like help each other do your career thing because you're helping each other do your career thing, right? Like it doesn't have to be that complicated, but like for me, it often is. Describe a person you have difficulty connecting with. Why do you think that is? I have a difficulty connecting with people who talk about other people. I don't find that interesting. Or who criticize people's appearances. Not interested. Also people who like struggle to talk about the reality and like how hard life is. Like if you can't talk to me about like being human, I would struggle with that. Also, I think that like sometimes if people are nervous to talk to me, it's hard because I don't always know that's what's happening until maybe later. Like I've had people message me and be like, I was so nervous, but I was interpreting it as like them just like not being interested, or like being kind of like self-interested because they like weren't talking to me. Like I was like holding the conversation, you know? But sometimes I've learned that that's just like people who are nervous and they're like feeling like uncomfortable. They think I'm cooler than I am in real life. And so they're like feeling nervous, but like, yeah. So I think people who like don't care about other people, people who are rude to other people, people who like talk about others, that's like that's like the conversation. But you can't talk about yourself. You're not self-reflective. It's going to be tricky for me. What does a life well lived mean to you? A life well lived to me means some form of creative expression, a lot of freedom, a lot of travel, a few really deep relationships, and lots of reading and lots of play. Final question, how do you measure one's potential? Are aptitude tests effective? No. I mean, I don't think you can measure potential. First of all, it's potential, it's the future. So how do you like measure that? And I don't think aptitude tests they're going to test a very specific kind of intelligence. So, I'm interested in the interest in measuring potential, period. Like, what are we trying to gain by doing that? Like, what's the goal there? And then I'm just skeptical of that goal in general. Like, what's the point? And if the point is like to see what you're capable of, I think we're all capable of everything. We just have to like figure out what we need to know and then do what we need to do to learn what we don't know, and then practice it until it's muscle memory, right? Like everything, there's no like innate talent in my opinion. It's like all learnable, everything that you need to do. Maybe you have a natural inclination towards something, but then like everything else you can kind of learn. I don't really like the idea of like, you are as full of potential as you will ever be, and this is how we measured that. Yeah, that's my thought. I hope this was fun. It was fun for me. So I am vlogging today, so you guys will have a vlog up tomorrow, another vlog. So stay tuned for that, and hopefully wish me luck that I, you know, stay awake today. That's the main goal, honestly. See you next time.